There are 23 unique armor sets in God of War Ragnarok, with 12 of them being tied to side missions and secret objectives. Today we're gonna talk about all of the hidden ones and their bonuses in the order you can get them throughout the game. And of course, a lot of them are actually super strong or give you some very unique bonuses that will completely change how you play. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this, and let's get started. So the first one is the Nidavelir armor. We talked about this in a previous video and how strong it is, especially early on. But you get this from a favor in Svartalfheim early on called In Service of Asgard, in which you get to disable 3 mining rigs around the Bay area. That's going to give you both the armor schematic as well as the ores needed to craft the entire set. And as I've said before, this is an amazing piece, especially for the chest component that makes stun grabbing to also heal you. Meanwhile, the wrist and the waist give you the stunning persistence perk, which reduces how quickly enemy stun bars will drain. The next one is the Radiance armor set, and this comes with a slow time effect when evading in the last second if you use the belt and the gauntlet. The shoulder piece, on the other hand, charges and gives you runic power on a last second evade. But the pieces are actually found in 3 different golden chests around the desert area once you unlock Alfheim. So the first one is located right here at the massive skeleton up north, and you have to defeat a number of enemies, then climb up and just get it from the chest inside. Meanwhile, the gauntlets are found just west of this area by reaching a small temple with some of these enemies inside, and then get the golden chest in the back. The final one gives you the shoulders, but this one has to be done through the favor called Secret of the Sands. By the way, you can do it also in the same area. Towards the end of this side mission, on your way out, you're going to come across this final treasure that gives you the shoulder piece as well. Moving on to number 3, the next one is the all-amazing Lunda armor. It's one of the more unique in the game as it transforms your barehanded attacks into poisoning attacks, which also reduces the power levels of enemies. Plus, the waist and the wrist will further increase the damage you do against those poisoned enemies by a massive 40%. I covered how you can get this in greater detail in a previous video, so totally check that one out. But in the meantime, here's a quick breakdown. The first piece, you find it in this camp in Noatun's garden in a red chest hidden behind a door with a sigil that you need to break. The second piece is right across the Mystic Gate right here in the cliffside ruins, and you will need to climb up this wall to find the belt in a chest in this small room onto the left side of the wall. The third and final piece is found in the Veiled Passage, but you do need to have Freya open up that for you to be able to proceed forward. Once you got all the 3 pieces, you can go back at Lunda and she will just repair it for you so you can wear it. And number 4, the next one is going to be the Guiding Light armor set, and it's pretty easy to get on your second visit with Kratos in Midgard once you get to explore the Lake of the Nine. You get it through the favor called Guiding Light, and you can start that right here at the Orsmond waypoint up north. Once you discover the first piece, the 3 remaining favor objectives will immediately pop up on the map around Tyr's temple. So all you have to do is to go to each of these locations and make sure to also grab these pieces from the ground near the rune tags that you have to interact with. The armor is actually pretty awesome and well balanced, with the chest piece buffing strength, runic power and luck, but it does so randomly for all available weapons. So I've explained how this works in the previous video. The buff can basically trigger even for the weapon that you currently don't use. So it kind of forces you to switch often, but it is worth it because the buff is strong. Meanwhile, the wrist and the waist have a chance to make your attacks to critical hit, creating a small damage explosion, which can actually be quite awesome because it doubles, almost triple the damage that you normally hit on the targets. Moving on to number 5, we have the Steinbjorn armor set, one of the best especially for the end game, and it's probably one of the most tanky if you do it right. But to get this, you need to be quite far in the main story towards the last few missions, so that you get a certain tool needed to open up a secret passage just south of Tyr's temple. This is going to be needed because with it you can activate the 3 troll statue encounters around Midgard, Vanaheim and Alfheim. The first one is in Midgard at the Derelict Outpost, and this will drop 1 stone needed for crafting the set piece. In Vanaheim, you will fight 2 trolls at the same time in the same Noatun's garden where you got the Lunda piece. And finally, the one in Alfheim is located in this small gap in the canyons west side of the Forbidden West. The chest piece is great at providing the heal on hit that you need, like I've said in the previous video. Meanwhile, the wrist and the waist have a chance to stagger and inflict stun when enemies hit you, which is going to be visible by a shockwave that will appear once that happens. Now moving on to number 6, we have the Raven Tears. This is a reward from destroying ravens for Odin's Favor side quest. There's 48 of them in total, and once you reach Alfheim, you can open up to 6 golden chests, depending on how many ravens you got so far. But you only need to unlock the first 3 chests to get the full armor set. So for the waist you need 6 ravens, for the chest with the wrist you need 12, and finally the chest with the armor piece is going to require 18. The armor set is pretty awesome for the wrist and the waist, which buff the healing of pretty much all sources like health stones, rage, and even gear by up to 30%. Meanwhile, the chest has a chance to spawn a healing mist. Moving on to number 7, the next one is the Undying Pyres. It's a super easy one to get from Muspelheim once you unlock that by simply completing challenges in 3 of the separate trials you get to unlock at first. But to get to unlock Muspelheim, you do have to get its key, which is split into 2 halves. So the first half is found super early in Svartalfheim on your way to one of the mining rigs southwest of the Bay of Bounty. The second one is found in the later half of the main story on your second visit in Svartalfheim while doing the Spirit of Rebellion side mission for Durlin. Once you get the key from the chest towards the end of this side quest, you can just head over to Muspelheim and begin the trials. So as I've said, there's going to be 3 rooms with 2 challenges at first, but you will need to only complete 1 in each of the rooms to get each of the set pieces. The armor set gives a lot of buffs to runic powers and cooldowns, and the chest piece in particular provides a shield when permafrost or immolation is active. The waist and the wrists are even better as it gives you a significant buff to how fast you can gain the permafrost and immolation. But while you're still here in Muspelheim, there's one more set that you can get called the Surtr armor set. And it basically looks something like this. One of the armor pieces gives you a bonus where hitting enemies during their attacks will do bonus damage against them, and the hands and the waist will reduce the damage and the stagger you take during your own attacks and skills. So it kinda is perfect for attacking enemies during their animations. But if you finish all of the first 6 Crucible challenges in Muspelheim, you will get the final challenge to open up, which is also going to give you the big chest in the middle of the arena. This is going to also open up the 4th and final big challenge, Sword, which is needed to provide you with the remaining pieces. But to open up the challenges for this sword, you have to combine the previous 3 keys in the previous rooms. So in this case, I combined the first key and the second key by doing their challenges, which gave me a new one to defeat 99 enemies in the center of the arena, and that one provided the chest piece. Meanwhile, I also combined number 2 and 3 to give me the boss rush in the main arena, which gave me the wrist piece. This already drops with level 7 and massive boost to strength, defense, and vitality. Now from this point on, all of the 4 remaining armors that are secrets are tied to an endgame map that is entirely optional but super worth it to get the best gear and max upgrades. So to open this up, I'm going to have to give you a slight spoiler warning. If you don't want to see this, maybe save this or skip ahead and just come back at a later date. But basically, you have to open up the crater area in Vanaheim through a side mission called Scent of Survival. I believe that you get this after completing the 10th story mission in the chain. So without spoiling too much over here, I'm just going to go over some of the basics. The one that you get first and earliest in the crater should be the Hunter armor set. This is a pretty interesting one because the chest piece, if you hold down L2, will provide additional damage buff when using attacks from afar, like for example throwing your axe. Meanwhile, the other 2 pieces will increase your range attacks and abilities by 20%, so it seems to be fully aimed towards just dealing range damage. You get this, by the way, from a couple of favors as well as a secret encounter, because these will have to provide you with 4 hunter brands needed to craft the whole set. So the first one you get from the favor in plain sight right here on this side of the map by investigating some burned out creatures and leading you to a side boss. Another one is called Nocturnal Predator, which is going to require you to calm some spirits during the nighttime right here in the center of the crater. And there's going to be a final couple of pieces that you get from an enemy called the Untamed Fury. The Centaur encounter will spawn randomly in each of the 3 sub-areas as you progress through them, and eventually will lead you to its lair, so you really cannot miss it if you just pay attention to the markings. At number 10, the next armor piece is also relatively easy. This is called the Fallen Star, and it's rewarded if you get enough crystalline shards, which are these yellow deposits you find all around the crater that if you blow up, they will give you some of these crystalline shards, as I've said. So with these, you want to head over south at the Wishing Well and then throw them in the pond, which will give you a ton of loot, items, crafting mats, but also parts of the crystalline armor. The chest piece is pretty interesting. It reduces damage that you take during runic attacks and relics, and meanwhile for the waist and the wrist, if you get hit during a runic attack or relic usage, it will restore a portion of that cooldown up to 30% if you complete the full set. So pretty great if you want to spam special types of attacks. At number 11, we're getting close to 2 very strong armor sets, one of which is the Dragon Scaled set. This one is also done through completing certain dragon hunts in the 3 regions of the crater, but you actually only need 2 encounters for that. So if you already continue to follow the 4 Vanaheim to fight your first dragon, which you should already do because it kinda is the natural progression of the story here, you will get enough to craft the first 2 pieces. And then if you follow the path, for example in the Sinkhole to fight the Crag Beast, or the Drakis in the jungle area, both will provide up to 8 dragon teeth required for the final armor piece. A big recommendation I have right here is to not upgrade any of that until you fully completed and crafted the set, otherwise you're just going to waste materials and be stuck without being able to complete the set. And finally, this brings us to number 10, probably the most difficult to get depending on how you play, but this is going to be the Berserker armor. And this you get from 3 specific Berserker enemies out of the 12 that the game features. So the first one you can find in the Lake of the Nine right after progressing the story over there, and it will give you the waste item if you defeat that enemy. The chest piece is given by the 2 sisters encounter in Alfheim right here on this side of the map, so get ready to fight the boss and its 2 ads. And there's a final one for the gauntlets in Niflheim once you did Ratatosker's side mission. This one is as crazy as it looks because the bonus on the chest piece gives you a massive damage increase when using your relic, but also increases the damage that you take. Meanwhile, the remaining 2 give you a chance on parry, block, or even when getting hit yourself to cause a soul explosion that deals damage to enemies but also restores a portion of the cooldown on your relic. So pretty neat if you want to focus on slowing down time, especially with one of the relics you get from the bosses. But yeah, this is pretty much it. As I've said, there's way more armor sets. The rest of them are unlocked by simply progressing through the main story, so those really cannot be missed. And this is pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.